Hi, welcome along to another video. This time we'll cover the middle of March along with some other info. We'll start in the UK with the usual UK weirdness, and because that'll be MSM related, we'll do a little bit more MSM, then we'll do the USA legislation, stay tuned as it were, and then we'll do the international stuff, so the usuals, UAE, Indonesia, and along with China and Pakistan. Source links are in the information to this video. That's only on YouTube. Thanks for subscribing, all that sort of stuff, comments. Off we go. Let's start with a good thing for once. There's a hoodie there, if anyone wants it. We're being played like a harp. Thought I'd mention that's out there. So over to the UK then. So on the 12th of March, the Dawlish Gazette, which is in Devon, Council does not engage in weather modification, freedom of information shows. Devon County Council neither directs nor funds any activity relating to weather modification, a freedom of information request is shown. And then it's a little explainer of what cloud seeding is. It does mention that the United States, India, China and Russia are among the countries that utilise cloud seeding. It's not bad, naming 4. It's quite good. Anyway, in response to the freedom of information requests asking if they are involved in any way, shape or form with weather modification, the council said no. The FOIA was done and it was posted on the county council website in November 2024. 5 months later, gets featured in the local news. Just a little reminder on the subject. Have a look at this. There's an academic paper from the University of Sussex, a call for strategic assessments of regional applications of solar radiation management, exploring the challenges and opportunities from marine cloud brightening and albedo surface modification. Uni of Sussex, located in Brighton on the south coast of the UK. Marine cloud brightening, might want to watch out for that one. The only reason I'm pointing this one out is just to show you that it took 14 people to write this paper. You can see the names there. So there's 14 people wrote this paper. And those people were in Australia, Denmark, various places in the UK, United States and South Africa. Very international paper. With 14 people to write one paper, that's a lot, isn't it? King's College London has an event on the 22nd of May 2025. They're basically running a season of talks, lectures relating to AI, and one of those is, will AI make geoengineering a viable response to climate change? That's on the 22nd of May 2025 on the Strand campus in London. Email address is there. I'm going to find out if that's open to the public or if it's strictly for students. If it's strictly for students, is it going to be live streamed online? I'll get onto that one. The UK's Guardian newspaper, it does pro and against geoengineering articles on a regular basis. It's even had articles sponsored by the Gates Foundation. So, in and out. And there's an opinion piece, the UK gamble on solar geoengineering is like using aspirin for cancer. Personally, I think that doesn't do it justice, really. I think it's more like stitching a wound with a power drill. That sums it up better. Anyway, the article is more about defunding ARIA, the Advanced Research Institute Anomaly, or whatever that is, and speaking out against geoengineering, calling it a barking mad scheme, for example, which it is. So great. On side, there's a response 2 days later, on the 14th of March, climate research into cloud barriers or Arctic refreezing is worth funding. So the people involved in the geoengineering saying, hey, it's all innocent, it's worth doing, and notice the terminology, cloud barrier. A barrier protects you against something. So it's not dispersing materials as stratospheric aerosol injection, which is, the brain computes that term as dumping chemicals, dispersing chemicals. So now as cloud barriers, it's something that's protecting you from solar radiation. The terminology, it's very neuro-linguistic programming, NLP. And then in between those two articles, so one was the 12th, one was the 14th, this one was on the 13th of March, in Weather Watch, Extreme Weather, Storm Raising, Witches, and the New Conspiracy Threat to Weather Research. Several US states want to criminalise atmospheric experiments which could prevent meteorological studies. Covered that last week or the week before, how it's preventing legitimate meteorological studies, or that's their opinion. We haven't asked for this to be done, have we, as a society? So this article is strange, really. Conspiracy theories about weather manipulation go back centuries and are more dangerous than you might think. And that sentence is more loaded than what you might think. So why is that relevant today? Conspiracy theories go back centuries is because the modern chemtrail conspiracy theory, weather modification conspiracy theory, is being called out by all of the information that has existed before the internet and before these 21st century conspiracy theories. And the only people that talk about these as conspiracy theories are the MSM. People don't talk about it like that. They don't say, oh, I'm into the conspiracy theory about chemtrails. They say, have you seen how the skies have been sprayed out today? That's what people talk about. So in this article, in the 9th century, so somewhere in the 800s, in the 9th century, magicians were calling up weather at will. Conspiracy theory obviously was proved to be not true by the fact checkers. Then it goes from the 9th century up to Scandinavia in 1590, when King James I had loads of witches arrested, tortured, and probably executed. Probably. Maybe. I wonder. And that was because they called up a storm that nearly wrecked his ship when he sailed home from Scandinavia in 1590. Well, okay, so we've really gone back in time, haven't we? So the next bit of information should really be about when France first modified their weather on the vineyards in Massenay, sorry, not sure how you pronounce that, in 1769, right? Because you've seen the two, it was witches, the 800s and the 1590s at some point. So now we should probably hit 1769. And then Italy, obviously their experiments at the turn of the 20th century. But no, the author skips from almost 1600, so they come straight up to 2025, ignoring 255 years worth of information, where they state such ignorance might now seem absurd. But several US states, motivated by conspiracy theories about government-created hurricanes and other weather disasters, are moving to criminalize atmospheric experiments. Last year, Tennessee was the first to pass a law banning cloud seeding. Such laws could prevent legitimate meteorological research, as well as feeding paranoia about chemtrails and other threats that are as imaginary as storm racing. This is a very interesting article. You know, the day before you've got an opinion piece against geoengineering, then you get this piece, and then you get the pro-geoengineering piece after this one over the course of 3 days. So they're taking information from what is literally the Dark Ages, claiming that ignorance should seem absurd today, but several US states, motivated by conspiracy theories, the same thing that was going on in the Dark Ages, that's what they're literally saying, is the reason legislation is being passed in the US now. It's very, what is that article about? What is the purpose of the article? I mean, it's very strange that The Guardian would publish an article where someone is literally saying passing legislation about weather and climate modification is ignorance and absurd. You know, whose rhetoric is that? If that's one person's opinion, how do they get that published in The Guardian? How does The Guardian say, that's top notch, we've got to publish that? So what is that about, that article? Why does that exist? Mainstream media, tricky. It's all about the tricks. It's very strange. So moving on to the AFP fact-checking page, 12th March. The Doctored TV programme revives widely debunked chemtrails conspiracy. It also appears in the Yahoo News, and basically it's like the media have gone back to 2015. They're trying to rehash and re-push the so-called chemtrails conspiracy theory that they was doing in 2015, 2016. Once again, it's really showing that they cannot deal with this subject. So the USA Today network, the Oklahoman, Meet the OU scientists looking for breakthroughs in tornado research. That's probably Oklahoma University. And it's basically a chat about, is it possible to manipulate the weather and manipulate tornadoes? It's a conversation about the technology. Over to Colorado, as you can see by the image there, it's very much about deployment. The Yakima Basin irrigators explore cloud seeding as a possible option. Colorado's very often on with its operations, active, say in the top 5 of American operations. In the New Scientist, Switzerland, how cloud seeding could help us predict when it will snow. Yeah, okay. And researchers in Switzerland are using weather modification techniques to understand how ice crystals form in clouds as a way to understand climate stuff. I'm pretty sure, anyway, if you do cloud seeding, it will snow in Switzerland. So, quite easy to predict. Well done. USA legislation. Here we go. Starting in Florida, March the 14th to the middle of March, we'll try and work out how things stand so far. So are Florida lawmakers trying to ban people from controlling the weather? SB 56 aims to prohibit weather modification activities, massively ramp up fines. So there's no hint of it being stripped or anything. It's definitely weather modification as well as geoengineering, as much as we know. Are they trying to do it? So they are trying to ban it. So in the Florida Phoenix, measure to ban geoengineering projects wins bipartisan support in Senate panel. Sponsor acknowledges skepticism about chemtrails but says bill would separate fact from fiction. That's what we want to hear. News Channel 8, Florida chemtrails bill clears Senate committee. So it's going through. Fox 4, Senate committee approves legislation on chemtrails. That's on the 19th of March, so a few days later. So they've approved legislation on the 19th. In Newsweek, Florida moves forward on weather control law. So it looks like it's been passed and it's well on the way and hasn't been stripped, and it is what it is. It is well done, Florida. So in Idaho, which is kind of a surprising one, because they would be in that sort of top 5 region of operations in America. There's Senate Bill 1167, which will repeal a section of state code and eliminate the possibility that a new weather modification district could be created. So Idaho's got its operations. Idaho Power, for example, modifies Idaho's weather. But they're starting to delve into their legislation, stopping new operations. Remember, that's government-based, so I'm not sure how that would affect, say, Idaho Power. So it basically looks like the legislation stops the state establishing a new weather modification district. I guess private companies can still apply for licenses under their current legislative regulations. But they're starting to get into it, so that's kind of, pay attention to that. It's a bit like the Texas stuff. Maine, up in the northeast, in a stroke of irony, Environment Committee nixes bills to prohibit potentially harmful geoengineering, 21st of March. Not sure where they sourced that image from, they don't say, but I'm pretty sure that's Philippines. Could be Indonesia, could be Malaysia, but I'm pretty sure that's from a military photo, stock photo from Southeast Asia, and not over America or Maine. Could be wrong, obviously, but I've seen that image before. So in Maine, they tried to put a bill forward banning geoengineering, but it's failed to get through. They tried. Now, North Dakota, which remember they tried to pass a bill that would ban weather and climate modification statewide, but the University of Nebraska, Lincoln, the meteorology, climatology, undergraduate news page says they are seeking a radar meteorologist and intern positions with the North Dakota Atmospheric Resource Board. Summary of work: assist the radar meteorologists in the direction of cloud seeding operations from a radar field office located in Bowman, North Dakota. So they're looking for interns for their projects. They've got no intention of stopping it by the looks of it unless it's legislated against. And that's where we see a turn for the better. Mackenzie County has ended its weather modification program. So that means they're down to Bowman and I think it's Sloat County. They're literally down to 2 counties now. Was 3 for a while, was 5 for a while. But Mackenzie County, they've ended it. Cool. Oklahoma. Southwest Oklahoma legislative update from the Senate. This is in the Southwest Ledger. So there was a bill going through, legislation to repeal the Oklahoma Weather Modification Act, SB 430. The act was introduced in 1999, legislating for weather modification. So they're currently trying to just wipe that, let's just get rid of the whole legislation thing by the looks of it. Tennessee. So we saw last time that the second round of legislation had passed the lower house vote, and now it's going to an upper house vote. More confirmation on the Texas thing. Texas state senator files bill prohibiting government from weather and climate modification. That was on the 4th of March. That's news out of Dallas, Fort Worth, Texas. So that bill's definitely going on by the looks of it. It's Senate Bill 1154, introduced on February the 6th. So you're hearing about it a month afterwards in the news and a month afterwards with me. But Texas are on it. There's something happening there. That's really stirring the pot, that one. Idaho is interesting. Texas, on it. We saw a couple of weeks ago about Wyoming defunding their cloud seeding program, but that's reported on the Wyoming Public Radio, Wyoming Public Media. So we'll just run through some headlines. As you know, the UAE has an ongoing program, more or less, Indonesia, China. So the headlines are kind of not a surprise, to be expected. UAE rains, nature's blessing, boosted by cloud seeding on the 11th of March. Also on the 11th, UAE weather, how much rain can we expect this week, and could cloud seeding be involved? Probably. In Pakistan, there has been a false narrative claimed circulating on social media about cloud seeding being used as part of the canal's construction in Kholistan, in the Kholistan area, and this is not true, according to the local People's Party. You might remember Ethiopia did use cloud seeding as part of the second filling of the Great Renaissance Dam, I think it's called, across the Blue Nile. So the concept is genuine, but apparently the Pakistani area government aren't doing it. So it's good to know. China launches spring rain operation to enhance precipitation. The China Meteorological Administration launched its spring rain operation on March the 13th. So presume their winter operation stopped on March the 12th then. China is ongoing. There's no starting or stopping there. Indonesia steps up cloud seeding efforts to combat rainfall-related disasters on the 9th of March. 11th of March, city government continues weather modification operation to reduce extreme weather. Also on the 11th, Jakarta to conduct weather modification to combat rising air pollution. So on the same day, it's being done to combat air pollution and to combat extreme weather. A little picture there in the VOI. The first day of Jakarta weather modification, 2.4 tonnes of salt sprinkled. Like the first day of nothing. It's an ongoing operation. On the 12th of March, tackling Indonesia's floods from the sky, cloud seeding to keep cities dry. On the 13th, effective weather modification to reduce extreme rain intensity will continue until March the 20th. So another 7 days worth. On the 13th, latest weather modification operation carried out in 2 flight sorties. The official Indonesian news agency Antara on the 14th. They're going to use weather modification operations to prevent forest and land fires. VOI on the 15th. OMC performed 3 times sortie commemoration. That's a translation. So they flew 3 sorties on that one. On the 16th, back to Antara, Jakarta has dispersed 12 tonnes of salt to anticipate heavy rain. 17th, still with the official Indonesian news agency, Air Force conducts weather modification to prevent flooding. 21st of March, VOI, weather modification in Jakarta ends. What? Hang on. Weather modification in Jakarta ends. Oh, okay. Interesting. I guess we'll see if that ended. It's a good place to end here. So thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves. See you next time.